Hey Floss Tube, welcome back. This is my 104th Floss Tube video, and I'm excited to share with you what I have been working on. And I have a lot to share with you, so I'm really excited. But first of all, I want to welcome you. If you are new to this channel, welcome. I hope that you enjoy the things that I have to share with you. And if you are returning, thank you for coming back and watching my videos. I really appreciate it. So everything's going well here. The weather has really cooled off now and things are just wonderful. I've had a really busy day this morning. I am actually playing the organ in church tomorrow, so I had to go practice this morning, crossing my fingers and hope that all goes well tomorrow. And things are just going well. Work has really settled down, and because of that, I have had a lot more time to stitch, and that's a good thing. The last video that I made, I'm not sure that I should have made that video that week just because I was still coming off of the stress of a lot of busy work. Since then, things have really calmed down and I've had more time to stitch, and I'm back into the groove of things. So I'll talk about that a little bit later. But first of all, I just want to share with you my knitting and show what I have been able to knit since the last time I showed it to you. Of course, I am working on a shawl. It is a Find Your Fade shawl using yarn from Knit Picks. They had a color combination that I really liked, and that's the main reason why I wanted to knit this. Is I wanted to see how the colors would look when it was all finished. So this is what it looks like now. And you basically, when I showed it to you before, I was down here in this color, and since then I've been able to knit all of this, and I've transitioned to the next color. So as you know, there's like 7 different colors. You start out with one color and gradually work through all of the colors. So of course, this is Stroll, which is one of Knit Picks sock yarn lines. And I started out with Base Camp, which is this variegated green color. And then this light green is called Eucalyptus. This green-blue color is Pluto. This kind of greenish blue color, light greenish blue, is Frozen. And then this really variegated, there's purples and greens and blues in here. This is Northern Lights. And then I have transitioned into Orbit, which is a really dark blue with some black highlights, basically. So I'll try to show you. I can't show you the whole shawl. It's too big to fit in the frame all at once, but you can see it starts out here and gradually changes to this dark blue. This transition to the dark blue has been a lot more abrupt than all the other transitions, just because there's not as much similarity. There's only a little bit of similarity between this and the Northern Lights. So this is what it looks like. You can see this is the point of the shawl if you're wearing it. This is the point that hangs down your back. My daughter, she saw this and she said, "Why is this here?" And I told her that's what hangs down your back, and she said, "Oh." She thought that was what this was down here, but no, this is the point. So you'll have a big when this is finished, it'll be a big triangle that looks like this, basically. So, and I noticed I was showing you the back so you can see all the tails that are hanging out. This is what the front looks like. Anyway, so I'm really happy with my progress. You can see each color has a garter stitch section, and then there's a lace section. I have finished the garter stitch section on this color, and I'm ready to start working on the lace section. So and then I just have one more color, so it is getting really close to being finished. So that is my knitting. Before I show you my cross stitch, I want to share with you a couple of graphs just to show you what things are looking like. This first graph is my stitch trend, and you look at this and you can see it looks like my slump is over. You can see that last month the number of stitches that I put in has drastically increased, and also the number of days that I was able to stitch has also increased. So my slump is over. I'm feeling a lot better about stitching and everything than I did before. Like I said, when I made my last video, I was still coming down off of all of the stress that I had from work. So I'll show you another graph. This is my whip status graph. You can see what things look like now. The big difference is you're going to see that Amid Amish Life, the first project on the left-hand side, is getting really close to being finished. The percentage is really high, and the number of days that I've stitched on it has really increased. There are increases in a lot of the other projects that I'm going to show you in a little bit, but they aren't as obvious as that one. And then finally, just to kind of show you how things are going, this is my whip trend. This kind of shows you the number of whips that I've had over the last year, the number of whips that I work on each month during the last year, and when I've had starts and finishes. So you can see I haven't had any starts or finishes for a long time, but this last month the number of projects that I've worked on has really increased, and so that's why I have a lot to share with you. And we'll talk about this a little bit later, but part of the reason why the number of projects I've been working on has increased is that I'm kind of switching things up with my rotation, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So that is everything. That's kind of a summary of what's been going on. So we'll talk about what I've been stitching, and these are sort of in chronological order. They aren't exactly, because of course I've been working on Amid Amish Life on and off. So I'll save that one for last. Okay, so the first project I want to show you is Joy. This is designed by AuryTM. It's Christmas. It's a Christmas pattern, and so I worked on this. Basically, this is a pattern. This is a project that I started back in May, and that's going to be kind of a theme. I've worked through all of the projects that I started last May. And I really look forward to this. This was a Christmas present from my wife last year, and I have the entire series. There are 3 of these. This is Joy. There's also Faith and Peace. This is the center one with the nativity scene in the middle. So I'll show you what it looked like the last time I saw it, and I thought I would just give you a little bit of a summary of each of my projects. So I have stitched on Joy I started on May 1st. I've stitched on it for 11 days, so basically 2 weeks. And my calculations show that I have about 40 days left to stitch on it. Is that right? Yeah, about 40 days. So I'm stitching it on 28 count Cashel Linen, and it's white, and I am stitching it with the called for DMC, which you look at this picture. When I first saw this picture, it looked to me like there was a lot of black in here, a lot of the same colors. There's not any black, and it looks a lot better than it does in that picture. So this is what it looks like now. So basically, I stitched this motif. I've stitched all of this. This motif with the tree, this horn with the flowers. I finished this motif, and then I started work on this one. This, I think this is the last motif that runs across the top. Let me make sure, yeah. So the other corner is right here. So that kind of feels like I'm making pretty good progress. I think I've just about got the top completed. And this has been really fun to stitch. I really like stitching Quakers, actually. I think the symmetry, always, I really love the symmetry. So, yeah, lots of flowers. And what's kind of interesting about this is there's different colors, but there's a difference, a very subtle difference between, like this red, the red of this cardinal is different from the red of this flower. I don't know how well the camera is going to be able to pick that up. And there's like two different shades of green as well. And I can't even point out which ones are different. I think this green is different from this green in this tree. But yeah, so I spent a week stitching this, and I'm really happy with what I was able to accomplish. So this is Joy by AuryTM. Okay, and then I spent a week stitching this. This is Autumn Sampler. This is a design by Sandy Orton of the Kooler Design Studio. Of course, I've already stitched the Winter Sampler. There's a series of 4. So this is the second of the series that I'm stitching. This is Autumn. So I'll give you my statistics on that piece. Autumn Sampler, I started on May 8th of 2021, and I have stitched on it 10 days, and my spreadsheet says that I have 137 days left to work on this. I don't know how true that will be, because there's a lot of empty space in this that will make things go a lot faster when I reach that point. So I've kind of had a slow start, but I know that there will be a time when I actually get caught up. So I'll show you what it looked like the last time you saw it. This is, of course, my second week stitching this, and I'm stitching it on 28 count Tea Dyed Monaco. And one of the reasons why I wanted to use Monaco is it's very, very dense. There's a lot of back stitching, and I feel like because the fabric is so dense, I can more easily carry threads for all the back stitching that has to be done. So this is what it looks like now. So yeah, it's still looking pretty. Still haven't got a whole lot stitched on this. You can see mostly what I stitched was this. This is a witch. It's kind of a girl. Kind of looks like a girl dressed like a witch, right? So I stitched her dress. This band right here. That's part of the reason why I like these samplers, is I love these bands that she has going through. So there's a band of moons, and we've got this banner down here that says Halloween. We're getting close to finishing the banner, actually, and starting to see there's a pumpkin that goes right here. So that's kind of exciting too. So the next time I work on this, we'll be able to see, hopefully be able to see a lot more of what's over here and up here. But yeah, so this is Autumn Sampler by Sandy Orton. And again, I'm really happy with this. This will require a lot of time, but I'm looking forward to seeing more of it. Okay, next. Last month, I was invited to a men's stitching night at the attic, and I was really excited to go. We met and stitched together basically 2 years ago in December, and we had another opportunity to meet. And I was trying to decide what I was going to take to stitch, and I finally decided to take this. So I took Gott 1848. This is the attic needlework. This is the attic needlework stitch along for 2021. And I started it back in May, and I haven't really done much with it since. I decided to take this because the fabric that I have is small enough that I need to use a hoop. It's not really complicated, so I wasn't worried. So that I thought that I'd be able to talk and stitch at the same time, and also I wouldn't have my great big huge wide scroll frame taking up the entire table. So I took this, and I worked on this for just that night. I'll show you what it looked like the last time you saw it. So there's not a lot of progress with this one. So it is being stitched on 46 count parchment. I'm gonna check. I think it's parchment. Oh, 46 count straw by Weeks. And I'm stitching it with the 103 silk. I have stitched this, I started this on May 15th, 2021. I've stitched on it 6 days, and my spreadsheet says I have 68 days left. So still quite a ways to do, although this is relatively small, so if I spend a lot of time on it, I think it would finish up pretty quickly. This is what it looks like now. So I stitched some of the border over here, and also stitched this little plant here. So not a lot, but I'm happy with what I was able to do. This was actually really fun to work on. I got myself a bigger hoop, and that made all the difference in the world. It made it so that it was a lot more enjoyable to stitch than when I started it back in May, because the hoop that I was using was too small, and I just felt really restricted by it. So, but there she is. We'll see how much more I can finish of her. So I really like these colors. I like this red and this blue especially, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of her in the future. So that's Gott 1848 by Needlework Press. Okay. Another piece that I worked on, and I've been aching to work on this again. I really love this piece. This is Louise Lallier by Reflets de Soie. This is a great big huge sampler with lots of stitches. I think this is the largest piece I've ever stitched. Actually, it's huge. And I'm stitching it on 40 count Verdal Evenweave with DMC. The pattern calls for a Vera Soie, and it has a DMC conversion, and I'm using the DMC conversion. And let's see, I started this on May 22nd, 2021, and I've stitched on it 13 days. I really love this one. And actually, my spreadsheet says that I have 213 days left to stitch on it, which just kind of indicates how big it is. I actually, even though I stitched on it for only a week, I actually brought the number of days that I had to stitch on it down. I think it was around 290 before, but I was able to cover a lot more space, and so that helped. This is the border on this is very complicated with many colors, and I was a little bit worried about that because it's repetitive and it can be a little bit fiddly, but I have totally enjoyed working on this. I love how it turns out, and it doesn't bother me it doesn't bother me to have to be changing the colors all the time, just because I love how it's turning out. So this is what it looks like now, and yeah, so I stitched 2 more flowers in the border, and I got to stitch a couple of letters too. I was excited to stitch some letters. So I'm basically working across the top. I'm going to work on this row of letters and the border. I think once I finish the border all the way across the top, things will go a little bit faster, because then I'll just have to worry about the border on the sides, and I'll have letters in the middle, and those letters will go by pretty quickly. But yeah, I love the colors with this one. And I'm looking forward to stitching more of this. I just really love this piece. And it's really fun. I was sad to put this down. I really enjoy stitching it too. So that's Louise Lallier, 1901. The design is a reproduction sampler by Reflets de Soie. So basically, if you've been paying attention, these were all of the projects that I started in May. And so that brought me to the end of my rotation. And one of the things that I said the last video is I don't feel like I'm accomplishing anything because I have so many whips. And I came to a realization, I had an epiphany. And that was that what's really getting me down is that I am taking forever to get through all of my projects. And so I have these projects, it's been 6 months since I've worked on a couple of these projects, especially the ones that I'm going to show you now. A couple of them I haven't touched since last April. And they just kind of eat at me because I haven't been working on them for very long. So I decided, and I did some calculations, different scenarios. I decided my focus piece, I'm still going to have a focus piece, and that I'm going to work on every other week, I think, because I want to finish my focus piece. And then instead of doing in the off weeks, instead of doing just one project, I'm going to do 2 projects. That is going to get me through all of my projects in just over 2 months. And I really like that. I'm not going to get as much stitching done as I would if I worked on them for a week, but I'll have worked on them some. And I think that will help, that I won't feel like I'm going forever without working on a project. I've decided, ideally, because I still want to get some significant progress on a piece, I decided I could get through all of my projects in a month if I worked on them 2 days each, but that doesn't feel right. So I've decided I'm going to work on a project for 3 days. The off projects that I do 2 in a week, I'm going to do 3 days on each project. And that will get some pretty good progress for the most part and make me feel like I'm accomplishing something. So that is what I have been doing the last 2 weeks. And I think this is going to work out well. The idea is that with the focus piece, I'm hoping to eventually get my whip count down enough that I don't have to worry about it anymore. And then I'll go back to week, I think. You know, things will change, probably will, but that's my thought right now. Anyway, so in addition to a mid-Amish life, which you'll see later, I started working through my rotation again. So this is Queen Anne's Lace. It's my second oldest whip. This is a design by Lavender and Lace, and of course it's a design of a lady in a really fancy dress. And I'll show you a picture of what it looked like the last time you saw it. I'm stitching this on 32 count Dirty Belfast Linen with the called for DMC. And I think that my summary will be a little bit more interesting with these. So Queen Anne's Lace, I started this on July 27th, 2019, so it's been 2 years that I've been working on this. I've stitched on it, those 2 years I've stitched on it 50 days, and my spreadsheet says that I have 64 days left to stitch on it. So I'm getting close to halfway, and I'll show you a picture of what it looked like the last time you saw it. This has been really fun to work on as well. I didn't get as much as usually I stitch about a diagonal on this. I didn't get that much done. So, but I am happy with what I did do. So I stitched down here. I had more of her arm appear here, and then I've been working down through the dress again. And if you notice, there's something a little bit different here. And this is kind of exciting because this is the bouquet that she's holding. So the bouquet's up here and then it drops down. So I've hit the tip of the bouquet. And that's exciting. It makes me feel like I'm accomplishing something. The next time I come down through here, there'll be even more of that to show. But I made it to here, and I'm getting close to the blue. So next time I work on this, I'll continue down and finish this diagonal. The corner of the piece is down here, so you can see my diagonals aren't getting any longer, and we're starting to work up to this corner up here. And really, it's not as far up as it looks. So I am making really good progress on this. I feel like this will probably be finished sooner. I mean, I could concentrate on this and finish it easy, I think. There's not a lot of color changes through the dress, so it goes really fast through the dress. The green is really, really confetti heavy. It takes me a long time to work through the green. But once I hit the dress, it just goes shoo. So it's enjoyable to work on. You get a little bit of variety between both types of stitching, I guess. So that's Queen Anne's Lace by Lavender and Lace. Okay, and then the next piece that I worked on actually this week is my third oldest whip. And that's this. This is the Red House Sampler by Brenda Keys of the Sampler Company. And yeah, so this is of course a sampler, and I really like this. I'm really happy with what I've been able to do. I'll show you a picture of what it looked like the last time you saw it. And I am stitching this on 40 count Parchment. This is the one that's Parchment by Weeks. And I started this, let's see. I started this on January 1st, 2020. So it's been almost 2 years since I worked on this. Of those 2 years, I've stitched on it 36 days. My spreadsheet says I have 20 days left. I don't believe that, and I'll show you why. But this is what it looks like now. So basically, when I started this week, I had this tree stitched. So I've stitched these two, I guess you call these flowers, in the border. I stitched this little, I don't know if that's a mouse or a squirrel, this green hill and this lady. There's a man right here, and he's giving her a bouquet. So I finished the lady, and the man will be coming up shortly. The reason why I don't believe my spreadsheet is the stitching is really dense through here. There's this great big house that has to be stitched, and that's going to take a while to stitch, I'm afraid. So I don't think 20 days. I think 20 days is based on how fast I was able to get through this up here. This is nothing compared to what's down here. So I think I'm actually going to slow down a little bit. But that's fine. And 3 days work, I was able to stitch a little this down here, and I'm happy with that. I was happy to stitch this. Like I say, it had been since April since I worked on these last two pieces, and it felt good to get them out and stitch on them and get a little bit of progress on them. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing the house start to appear. That's the Red House Sampler by Brenda Keys of the Sampler Company. Okay, the final piece, of course, is this, Amid Amish Life. I've been stitching on this. This has been my big focus for most of the last half of this year. It is a design that was published in Cross Stitch and Country Crafts in 1987. It was in the March, May, and July issues of Cross Stitch and Country Crafts, 1987. It's also available in this book, 100 Best Loved Designs from Cross Stitch and Country Crafts. It's also available as a leaflet. And it was also in the last issue of Cross Stitch and Needlework that was published 3 or 4 years ago. That's where you can find it. I think the magazine is your best bet. This is hard to find now. It wasn't when I bought it, but it is now. And yeah, and I think the leaflet is kind of hard to find also. Here goes. This is the statistic that is the most interesting, I guess. I started Amid Amish Life on February 16th, 2019. So we're coming up on 3 years. Since then, I've stitched on it 111 days. My spreadsheet says that I have 19 days left. I don't know if I believe that. Well, that's for just the cross stitching, because because I still have all the back stitch to do. And so it's going to be more than 19 days. I look at all that's left, and I find it hard to believe that there's only 19 days worth of stitching. But I think the way I do things is pretty accurate. So, and it may be true, because I think things are really going to speed up. And we'll talk about why. So I'll show you what it looked like the last time you saw it. I'm stitching this on 25 count Wedgewood Lugana. Because it's 25 count, and because I was worried about coverage, I am stitching with 3 strands of DMC. And I've said this before, if you were to start this, I would suggest finding a similar color fabric with a higher count rather than going with 3 strands of DMC. Because I have really not, it's been a pain. But it's been worth it. It's worth all the struggle. The struggle is real, but the struggle is worth it. So this is what it looks like now. So I think I've stitched a couple of diagonals since you last saw it. I know the last time you saw it, I think I just barely hit this corner. Now you can see this edge is starting to grow, so my diagonals are getting smaller. And you can see more of the barn. The barn is almost finished actually, and I'm going to start working on, there's a silo that is right here next to the barn that I'm going to start working on. You can kind of see it here. This is the base of the silo here, and then when it gets up above the roof of the barn, then it'll be more obvious. Yeah, my real nemesis with this piece lately has been the garden. The garden is very complicated. There's lots of colors in there, and it takes me like a day or two to come down through the diagonal, and I hit the garden, and it takes me like 3 days to get through the garden. Well, not anymore, because the garden's almost finished. I think I've got one more diagonal through the garden, and then just the very tippy corner of another diagonal. Once that garden's finished, I think this is going to really, really speed up. And I think I'm going to be able to get a lot more done a lot more quickly. So yeah, so this is what it looks like so far. And like I say, I am really happy with this. I'm happy with my progress, and am looking forward to, I'm on the downward slope to getting it finished. It's been a lot of work to get to this point, but I am really happy with it. Since I started focusing on it, when I started focusing on it, I was over here at the house. So I have stitched a lot in the last 5 or 6 months. And I'm really happy with that, and looking forward to, I still have a long ways to go, but it's going to come up. I'm hoping that I can finish it by the end of the year. I'm not sure that I will. Well, I think what's going to happen is if I finish it, then I will drop my rotation and do the back stitch until it's finished. Because once I start back stitching, I don't want to stop. So that's kind of my plan. So 19 days, so 4 weeks. 4 weeks to get the cross stitch finished, and then I think another month to actually back stitch. But yeah, so it's really coming along, and I'm really excited to finish it. Of course, this is 3 different designs: hanging the quilts, visiting the neighbors, tending the garden. Visiting the neighbors is almost finished. I just have this little corner right here to stitch. And then we'll just be working exclusively on tending the garden. So yeah, there's my mid-Amish life. I've seen a lot, there are several other people who are stitching it on Instagram, and I always enjoy seeing everybody's progress. Some people have finished it, so that is great. So my plans, I've talked about my plans. My plan is, this week is a mid-Amish life week, so I'm planning on stitching a mid-Amish life this week. And then next week we will do 2 more whips, 2 projects that I'm really excited to stitch that I haven't stitched for a while, and that'll be really exciting too. I know that one of them is the Time and Season sampler, and I think after Time and Seasons is Medieval Town Mandala actually. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to pulling those projects out. And I'm looking forward to going through my entire rotation in a good amount of time so that I don't feel like anything else has been abandoned. So that's it. That's all I have to share with you. Before I go, I have a giveaway that I want to do. This is kind of think of this as a potential early Christmas gift. I have 2 of these. This is a 2022 Be In My Bonnet Planner by Lori Holt. It's unopened. I haven't opened it, so it's still in its shrink wrap. I have 2 of these to give away. So if you would like one of these planners for 2022, I would be glad to send this to you. If you would like it, let's do as normal in the comments. Let's do a keyword plan. What are your plans coming up? We're getting close to the end of the year, so people are starting to make plans of how they're going to finish the year. They're starting to make plans of what they're going to stitch next year. So I'd be glad to hear your plans. Use the keyword plan. That's what I will search for when I choose a winner. So use the keyword plan and talk to me about your plans for the end of the year and the beginning of next year. I'd be glad to hear about that. And I will choose 2 winners, and I'll announce that in the next video. I would love to get this sent out to you so that you can have it by the beginning of the year. So that's an incentive for me to film again before the end of the year. Anyway, so if you would like that, feel free to comment below. So that's all that I have to share with you. If you want to follow my daily progress, you can follow me on Instagram if you aren't already. I am at blitstitch on Instagram. I try to post daily. It's not always daily, it's when I stitch. So you can follow me and see how things are going. As always, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, feel free to subscribe and even ring the bell so that you can be notified when I post videos, and so that you can be aware when I post videos. Also, if you haven't, feel free to like this video. I appreciate all the likes and all the comments that you have. Would be glad to hear from you and glad to hear answer any questions that you have for me. So once again, thank you for spending time with me. Thank you for your support. I really appreciate it. I hope that you have a good next couple of weeks, and we will talk to you later. Goodbye.